think my mom was at the beach with her sister, and she didn't even realize it was a major championship. She's like, he seems to have won something pretty big here. I'm not really sure what it is.
She was still mad at you for skipping out of school, I think.
Yeah, exactly. She was still mad. She was still mad.
Welcome back to a new episode of Fourball. I'm Travis Miller, joined by my lovely co-host Annabel Angel. Today we're joined by major champion Graeme McDowell. GMAC, we're excited to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. That's fun.
The format of the show it's called Fourball, and so we're gonna dive into what your dream Fourball would be, and obviously that starts with yourself. So you're gonna be playing in that group.
Okay.
But I want to talk a little bit about you and just how your game's shaping up
Sure.
right now. We're more than halfway through the season, so how are you feeling about your game right now?
Yeah, game's kind of coming around the corner. It's a longer corner than I expected it to be, but it's hard. I mean, I really feel like the live format. It's definitely a little different from 72. There's less room for error. It really is a sprint. It's only one round less, but I really feel like, I felt like back in the 72 hole days, you always could kind of have that round to get into it and get into the weekend and have a chance to compete. But like I feel like on live, you have to put the pedal down early in the week and get after it. And I still kind of feel like I'm trying to figure out the mental approach that I need to kind of be able to do that. And the way the format is, you're playing against 8 or 10, 12 best players in the world every week as well. So there's no let up, and it's been tough. It's been a lot of fun. I feel like I've kind of had a lot of nearly weeks, but just not quite got it done. And obviously here at the Greenbrier this week, love the way this course sets up. And like I say, I feel like my game continues to trend in the right direction. I just need to put 54 holes together and see if I can get on that podium.
It's crazy how golf is, because I mean, you say long corner to take, but you're probably like just this close from just turning it on and winning an event or multiple events. I mean, it's still playing at just an elite level.
For sure. I mean, I feel like at this level, it's a very, very fine line. There's like, any tour event anywhere in the world. There's guys are very talented, and they're it's a fine line. Just that one little swing thought or that one just kind of mental zone that you get yourself into, and away you go. I mean, I've been doing this for 22 years, and it's definitely ebbs and flows. You have periods in your career where it just feels easy, and you have periods in your career where it feels more difficult. And you definitely just have to take the rough with the smooth, keep chipping away, keep trying to get better every day. That's the crazy thing about the game of golf. 30 years later, I'm still just trying to get better every day. It's feel like you learn something new about yourself, learn something new about the sport. It's challenging and definitely gets you out of bed every day, kind of with a new set of goals. And like I say, I'm really really enjoying the live experience. It is something so different and so unique, with a new set of opportunities, a new set of goals, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. I get a lot of guys have wrapped their head around it faster, and it's taken me a little bit of time, but I'm excited, looking forward to a big weekend, hopefully.
Well, talking about live a little bit, I mean, with golf in general, individual sport, and you were able to almost reach the mountaintop. Your highest rank was 4th in the world rankings, major champion. You won the 2010 U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. Incredible experience. You've also played in tons of Ryder Cups, so you're familiar with the team format. But now with live, that's a big staple of what live is, and I think a lot of people are starting to learn more about that and adapt to that. What's it like coming in week and week out and actually being a part of the team and working with the guys and cheering them on and carrying each other week in and week out?
For sure, I think that was probably the part that took me most by surprise. Season 1 was just how compelling the team part of it was. Practicing with your teammates, kind of pulling for each other, information sharing, getting ready for the week, and being part of not just an individual event, but a collective team event. And like I say, in 22, when this was just a startup company with a unique perspective on the game, I was blown away by how much the guys were really into the team element, and there really is something super tangible here that the game of golf needs. You mentioned that I've played 4 Ryder Cups. They're the best experiences of my golfing career by far. Winning a U.S. Open was really sweet. You win it for you and your caddy and your coach and your family. But when you play a Ryder Cup, it's the 12 players, and it's Europe, and it's just everyone involved. It's such a bigger story. So out here, when you're playing for other guys, and you've got a franchise like ours at the Cleeks, and you're trying to build that brand, and trying to get yourself out there and win as a group. I think it's super special. We've only ever been on the podium one time as a team, which was in Bangkok last year, and it was awesome. Had a few drinks on the Sunday night together, and shared kind of like a little taste of that victory together. So no, it's definitely, I think it's a very unique thing that the game of golf needs. I feel like there's a big hole in the market for this franchise style golf, and obviously Liv is kind of leading that charge, and I think we continue to evolve and we continue to develop, and I think most importantly the players care a lot about it, and I think that's the key, because I always feel like the fan at home, they know what's real and what's not real.
Sure.
When you watch guys, at the Ryder Cup keep talking about that, but no money on the line, it's just pure emotion representing your country, your continent, playing for each other. That's a real thing. I feel like someone asked me a few weeks ago, I can't remember where it was, but he said to me, is that real what we see on TV when we watch the Ryder Cup? Is that a real emotion you guys are? I'm like, it's very it's real,
intense.
Absolutely, and it's the same out here. I think on Liv, the team element is definitely way more compelling than I ever expected, and it is something that we're going to continue to build on.
Yeah, it's you never want to call anyone out, and I'm not sure like how you feel about this personally, but it's interesting to watch a traditional golf tournament in the past where you maybe make the cut on the number or so, and then you falter over the weekend, and you're not in contention, and you might just want to pack it up and go on to the next event. And you guys grind. I mean, you're on a plane that Sunday night, going to the next tournament, practicing again on Monday, Tuesday. It's for those that aren't at these events, they don't see that aspect of your guys' career. It's a true grind. But at Liv, one thing that fascinates me, and I think a lot of the viewers are starting to catch on to and really enjoy, is you might not be in contention, but you want to play for your team on Sunday because you can go out and shoot a 62 and might put you on that podium.
Yeah,
I mean, that's pretty cool.
For sure, with the format and kind of 2 scores to count every day from the 4. Three scores to count from the 4. It's very volatile. You can be 5, 6, 7 shots out of those podium finishes, and you can have a big Sunday. And like you say, individually you may not be playing well and competing for a top 10, say, but there's so much on the line to play for on a Sunday, and I think that's a really interesting part of what we do out here. The individual, it's obviously a huge opportunity financially. We're playing for a lot of money every week, but the team thing, everyone always has an eye on the team, and you're always trying to play hard for your teammates, even if you're not having a great day. Try and hang in there, try and position yourself, and go out and have a big Saturday and Sunday to try and help the team out. So it really is interesting. Like I say, I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible, how big this can be. Looking forward to getting to Miami again, in a couple months' time, because that was a lot of fun to play that type of format, like a little mini Ryder Cup happening all over the golf course. And there is so many elements to it which are strong, from a marketing, from a fan point of view, and very powerful. So looking forward to some more of that.
So as far as your playing career, take the career as a whole today, your greatest accomplishment or your most memorable piece is playing on the Ryder Cup, more so than winning the U.S. Open individually.
Yeah, for sure. I think when it comes to just pure emotions and great memories, and the friendships that you forged, and just through being out there with another guy walking down the fairway on a Friday morning of a Ryder Cup, it's like back 9 on Sunday intensity at a major. On a Friday morning, you haven't hit a shot yet, and you're there and you're sharing that with another guy, and the team room and the build up to a Ryder Cup, and just kind of like I say, the bonds that you forged kind of over those years, and just so many of those great memories. The individual stuff. I mean, golf is such an individual sport. I've been out there doing it myself since I was 10, 12 years old, kind of grinding, trying to get better and better and better. But it's it's down to you at the end of the day. But when you do get a chance to play as part of a team, it's something very unique for golf, I think, and that's why I feel like what we have at Liv is something super interesting and definitely unique.
Yeah. Let's get to know GMAC off the course a little bit. I mean, what do you get into off the golf course that you find as a hobby or just a big interest of yours? Keeps you busy?
Yeah, I mean, obviously being a dad has been something that's kind of taken up my last 8 or 9 years for sure. I love all sports. Grew up in the UK and, Premiership football. Live in America now. I've been living pretty much full time for the last 15 years in Florida, so I love the NFL, love college football. So I'm always a sports guy. It's interesting when you travel for a living. It's tough to do much traveling when you go home. But I mean, definitely one of my goals for the next 5-10 years is to take my kids around the world, go to the great spots around the world that I've been as a golfer that I haven't really seen. It's amazing when I think back to the places that I've been in the world. But I mean, it's a hotel and a golf course and some restaurants, right? It's like, you go to Beijing and, you don't go to the Great Wall of China, right? So it's, you've got all these amazing spectacles in the world and experiences that I haven't had a chance to experience yet. I know how to get myself around the world, and I know some amazing places to take my kids, and that is definitely something that we want to work on for the next, give my kids a global education, take them around, and like I say, see the sights that I haven't seen really. So, I mean, a lot of what I do off the golf course is focused on them. And you're always trying to get your game ready on the side as well. I think that's one of the unique things about the game of golf is that, you're on the road 20, 25, 30 weeks a year, but when you're home, you're always kind of like tuning up, getting ready for the next week as well. So, like good food, like wine, like I say, definitely foodies, my wife and I, and I'm in the restaurant business, got a couple of restaurants in Florida with my team, and I enjoy the business side of life. I enjoy kind of definitely getting into looking into the next chapter of my life. I'm just turned 44 last week, and definitely I know I'm not going to do this forever, competing at a high level, and trying to figure out kind of what the next chapter of my life looks like.
Sounds like you got kind of a lot of stuff on your plate already.
Definitely, it's
for sure.
Definitely a lot of stuff going on. So.
Yeah.
But with 16 worldwide wins and nearly 400 weeks in the top 50, what drives you now, 20 years later?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think being here on Live and having a new set of goals, a new set of opportunities, I think that was one of the really compelling things for me when I did join Live. Was I'd done the same thing for 20 years. I'd been on that kind of 35-week-a-year grind of trying to achieve all the great things, Ryder Cups and world rankings and major championships and all. They are still very special to me. Having a new set of goals and a new set of opportunities that Live presented was something that was really interesting for me as well. So like we talked about earlier, I think just getting out of bed every day, trying to be better at what I do. I miss being at the high level. I miss being a top 50 player in the world, a top 25 player in the world, and competing every week. I tee it up. Live's pretty tough. You're playing against, Brooks Koepka and Dustin Johnson and Cam Smith every week, and it's very difficult to build momentum when you're playing against the best players every week. But I still believe that I'm good enough to do that, and that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. Get in the range, trying to get better, and trying to compete against these guys.
Do you have a specific goal, or it's just getting up the leaderboard? I think
winning a Live event's definitely a goal. I feel like I've won events at every level of my career, every tour that I've ever played on, and Live is my home now, and I want to win a Live event, and hopefully drag the cliques up into that win as well. A little individual win and a team win would be something really special. I'd take either. I'd take a team win or an individual win.
Not fussed.
Not particularly fussed. I mean, obviously an individual win and take the team onto the podium as well. That would be pretty cool.
So take us back to your childhood, growing up in Portrush. You started golf from a fairly young age. Who were your golfing idols?
Yeah, I think growing up in Europe and growing up in the UK, it was like Faldo and Seve and Montgomery. Those guys were in the 90s. They were kind of the guys I looked up to. I was lucky to grow up in the town of Portrush, which obviously has one of the best golf courses in the world. My dad took it up late in life and fell in love with the sport. And my mom would work on a Saturday, and Dad would be off, and he'd drag us around the golf course. Would be out there kind of pulling his golf cart around the place, and snatching a club out of the bag and kind of swinging it. And we were getting the bug as well. Myself and my little brother. He's 2 years younger than me, and when we got old enough, that was pretty much what we spent every day doing. I remember just spending summers. It was like literally getting dropped off at the golf club at 8 a.m. and we'd go home for a little bit of dinner in the evening, and maybe go back out and play 9 holes in the evening. So it was just it was full immersion in the game of golf, like in a special location like Portrush, and just trying to get to those next levels. We had a lot of really great amateur golf up around Portrush where I grew up. I didn't have a lot of exposure to the pro game television wasn't quite kind of what it is today. I always remember April and the Masters would come on, on the BBC, and it was just like the weather was just starting to get better in Northern Ireland, and it was golf season was kicking in. So when I got to the age of sort of 13, 14, competitive golf was what I was into, and really just trying to climb those ranks, play for Ireland and win amateur events. Always wanted to come to college in the States. That was kind of a goal of mine. I remember seeing one of those college golf bags with the logo up the side, and I didn't know what it was or how to get there, but I knew that I wanted to do that. I wanted to come and play college sports. I had no idea, just how big, the U.S. college system was, especially for golf. I mean, it was, for me, 18, 19 years old, I was good, but I wasn't ready to turn pro. And college golf really kind of helped me get to that next level. And, I played really well my last year and turned pro, and away we went. It was a lot of fun. But I've always been that guy that kind of looks to the next level of how do I get there? So now I'm on tour. How do I win a tournament? Now I've won a tournament. How do I get in the top 50 in the world? How do I get in the majors? Now I'm in the majors. How do I win one of these and get on Ryder Cup teams? And I always tried to kind of set, visualize kind of where I wanted to be and try and fit the steps in to try and get me out there. So it was, the game's been, I've been really lucky. I've been very fortunate, won some great events, and, I certainly, I still love the game as much today as I did, 30 years ago for sure. It definitely is one of those sports that keeps you interested.
Apparently you studied economics and engineering at university, Graeme?
Yeah, I was kind of
very impressive.
I was kind of a mathlete, if you like, at school. I was reasonably academic somehow. Maths and physics were kind of my subjects.
Move over Bryson, yeah.
Well, I don't know if I'm quite Bryson level. I'm not quite as cerebral as Bryson say. He's got some crazy thoughts going on in that mind. I think I'm a little bit more logical, maybe. But I was a mechanical engineer, and being honest, when I went to the U.S. college system, I kind of wasn't really, golf got in the way so much that I decided that I'd have to leave the books. I remember calling my mom and saying, I just don't think I'm going to be able to graduate this year, Mom. I only had 3 years eligibility. I'd been to college in Ireland for a year, and I lost a year of eligibility in the NCAA, and so I ended up not graduating, which was, my mom was very devastated because she'd never had any of her kids go to college and graduate. And then some years later, after I won the U.S. Open, I got an honorary doctorate from a college in Northern Ireland. So I was able to go to a graduation ceremony, and we did that whole thing. So she was happy.
Did you take your mum?
Yeah, absolutely. She came with me. So that was fun. So eventually, she got to go to her college graduation. But yeah, mechanical engineering was what I wanted to do. I had no idea what I was going to do with that, but I was just kind of following what I was good at school. I figured maybe I could get into the development side of golf, maybe, build golf balls or golf clubs or something. I had no idea, but thankfully, golf got in the way. I started to play well, and, education took care of itself.
That worked out for you.
It worked out okay.
I mean, growing up in Portrush, completely spoiled with your home course and all the courses around you. I had the opportunity to go there for a friend's 40th, and we got to play all the courses in Northern Ireland, and incredible. And we had the best weather possible too. What's your favorite course to play in the world?
Yeah, obviously I'm a huge fan of links golf. Growing up in Portrush, when the 2019 Open went to Portrush, I remember kind of obviously being very proud. It was the first time we'd had an Open there since '51, I think, and it was obviously a proud moment in Irish golf to have the best players in the world come and play the Open Championship at Portrush again. And I remember guys coming up to me that week and going like, "This is the best links course that we've ever seen." And I was like, really? I guess it is that good. It's like when you have something on your doorstep all your life, you take it a little bit for granted. I knew it was a good course. I didn't think it was kind of like, the greatest links course some of the best players in the world had ever seen. I remember when so Portrush had 36 holes. You had the Valley course, which was the lower course, a little easier, a little bit more straightforward. And then the Dunluce was the championship course, and you had to be a 15 handicap or better before you were allowed out in the Dunluce course.
Okay.
And, I remember being like 12, 13 years old, and summer evenings, and kind of when the course was nice and quiet, we'd
sneak over there,
sneak out and play 3 or 4 holes with my dad, and I literally felt like I was walking out in Augusta.
Yeah.
And Augusta's probably my favorite course in the world, honestly. I think to me, there's no such thing as like golfing perfection. I feel like, people always say, oh, you must love Pebble, that must be your favorite course. But I think Pebble has like 5 or 6 weak holes. To me, to have a golf course which has 18 great holes, 18, tee shots and iron, just every shot at Augusta to me is just like perfection, and it is so hard to do that in 18 holes, to have just 18 great holes. But like I say, I think, if I had one round to play, definitely Scottish or Irish links. St Andrews is one of my favorites. I think such an interesting golf course, St Andrews. I think if a course architect designed it tomorrow, they'd probably get laughed out of the business, and never be allowed to build another golf course again. But like, it's so unique. There's so many angles to it, and the wind directions and the pin positions. It's just an incredible track. So I'm definitely links. I don't get a chance to play links anymore. I went over this summer and tried to qualify for the Open, and it was weird. I hadn't played links golf in so long, and it took me kind of a day to kind of get the hang of the lies and the flighting of the ball again, and just kind of all the stuff that I grew up with in the short game. But links golf's pretty special.
So the reverse side of that, growing up playing a lot of links golf, how hard was it to translate that over to play courses more like here in America when you came on to PGA Tour and stuff? Was it tough to adapt to that, or were you able to train for that?
Yeah, for sure. I remember when I first I went to school at UAB in Birmingham, Alabama, and we had phenomenal golf courses there, Shoal Creek and Greystone and Old Overton, and I'd never seen greens at more than 11 on the stimp in my life before, So I think I used to give my college coach heart attacks the way I putted. I wasn't like, putting is one of the kind of strengths of my game the last 10, 15 years. But I feel like when I was in college, I was still a linksy putter. I kind of had a little bit of a hit in my stroke, and that didn't really lend itself well to super fast greens. So it definitely took me a little bit of time to understand Bermuda and grain, and kind of like being the different type of short game that American style golf requires. So I feel like when I look back, my transition to college in the U.S. was a massive turning point in my life. The opportunity I got to go to UAB and turn myself into a player that was going to have the ability to win golf tournaments all around the world, because I was very one-dimensional as an Irish player. It's like, I'm good in the wind and I'm good on links, and but being able to adapt my game to a new set of skills and new types of grasses, and playing in the heat and playing on fast greens, and it was definitely a big turning point in my life, and it definitely helped me get where I am today, no doubt.
Yeah. So let's go back to your family, man. You got 3 kids. You have a 6-year-old that's really getting into golf right now, correct?
Yeah, he's kind of got the golf bug right now, which is cool. He takes lessons from a young kid, kind of at a golf course near where we live, because he doesn't really listen to dad at all. So I figured that out pretty early. That my kids certainly don't want me to coach them. They just want me to have some fun with them. But he's kind of, I've always wanted to be that dad that didn't really want to push him down the golf. And my daughter as well. The oldest girl doesn't really like golf much. She's a dancer, and my 8-year-old daughter's kind of a dancer as well, but she dabbles in golf. But the 6-year-old boy, he's kind of, somehow I'm his hero right now, so I'm enjoying that as long as I can. I can get it, But he's kind of, this summer he's really, kind of got a little bit of strength, and he can move the ball a bit now, and he's starting to. Him and I can go play some holes, which is cool, and it's kind of one of those moments in your life where you always visualize, like, your kids saying, "Dad, can we go to the range?" And I was, so every time he says that to me, I'm like, of course we can go to the range, mate, absolutely. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Him and I play some holes together, and it really is a lot of fun kind of watching him get the bug a little bit. If it lasts, great. If it doesn't, I'm not going to be that dad that's going to be upset that he doesn't play golf. My dad was very much the same style. He was very much like, whatever you choose, I want you to give it 100%, but golf doesn't have to be your thing. But if we do choose something, let's make sure we do it the right way. So that was kind of my dad instilled that in me, and I feel like I'd be the same way with my kids a little bit as well. It's like, I don't really care what you do, but let's find something that you're passionate about, and let's give it 100%. And if that's golf, that's great. I see, Poltz and I live in the same community in Florida, and he's got a son at Florida now, and starting to play at a high level, and as a golfer, as a guy that's played pro golf, to have a son that wants to do that as well would be pretty cool.
It's a question I wanted to ask you because it's something that I think whether you're a pro golfer or you're someone who's an athlete at any level, great high school football player or college football player, you want your son or daughter to play sports, or there might be something in particular you really want them to do, but it's like, what age do they get started? Do you push it on them? Do you want to coach them? It's this balancing act, and everyone has a little bit of a different approach to it, I guess you could say. But when it sounded like your dad kind of just brought you along to the course and you fell in love for the game yourself. But I mean, is there an age that you think now, looking back and everything, and when you started, hey, this is a great age to start? Is there any age that's too early or too late?
It's a great question, and I mean, obviously, a lot of parents would ask me that question. You know, how old were you when you started? You know, what's the route that you go down to kind of get your child to fall in love with the sport? And I think that's the key, and that's kind of why the coach that my kids use is so great, is because his main goal is to have the kids just love the game and just have fun doing it, right? Because the game of golf can be slow and monotonous, and there's so much etiquette and things that you have to do, and it's like such a formal game that as a kid, that formality can nearly chase you away a little bit, So I think I think a lot of that, certainly golf as a sport, because you don't have a team to drive you along. If you play football or basketball or hockey, it's nearly like that team mentality. Everyone drives everyone along. In golf, there's a lot of you drive yourself, and you can't really teach that to a kid. They have to just innately want that. They have to love it, and they have to kind of that has to be inside of them, really. And I don't think there's things that you can't teach. You can teach technique, and you can you can hit enough balls to where you can figure it out, but that desire of wanting to compete and get better, and that really comes from within the kid. And to me, there's no age, really. It's really if they love it and they want to do it, and find a great avenue for them. I was very lucky growing up in Ireland. The game of golf was very approachable. It was cheap. The clubs, there was plenty of golf clubs. There were lots of kids that wanted to play, and we won 3 major championships in the space of 18 months from a country like Northern Ireland, 1.5 million people. Myself, Rory, then Darren Clark. People are always like 1.5 million people and 3 major champions, in a short space of time. And the only answer I could really give was great golf, accessible, cheap, easy, and that kids were very much welcomed into these clubs and really kind of given the ability to go and fall in love with the sport. So obviously, living in America, I feel like that accessibility is a little different. I live in a fancy country club, and it's like that's not how I grew up. It's like it's building that. I used to go to the range with my shag bag and hit some balls and go pick them up and start again, and wouldn't hit very many drivers in the range because they'd be sprayed all over the place, and I'd have to go find them, and so it's like I feel like I'm very lucky that my kids have the access to the game, but I think one of the things I'd love to see keep getting better all over the world is that accessibility, that kind of bringing more kids into the game and helping them fall in love, and getting away from the formality of the game that can really scare people away.
Yeah, it could be turned off quickly. I mean, run into the wrong person at the wrong club, and it's just like, all right, I'm going to go back to what I'm comfortable with.
Yeah, and I feel like we're moving into a generation, where, you look at the Augustas and the Pine Valleys and the Seminoles of the world. I mean, that is such a formal, elitist. It's amazing golf. I mean, it's the best golf courses in the world. But what does this next generation of golfer want? I feel like they don't want so many rules. They want to be able to play the best golf course in the world, but they want to have fun, and they want to have a few beers and maybe listen to some music. And to me, I feel like we're shifting towards the game being more entertaining and being more approachable for the average player to, because when you're out there spending 4 or 5 hours doing something, it should be a lot of fun, But there is always going to be a place for the most incredible clubs in the world. I'm just so curious to see if they will sustain through the next 30, 40 years as this new generation of golfer comes through who wants a different, he wants a different experience.
Yeah. Let's talk about the business side of life for you, entrepreneurship. I mean, so you have the restaurants. What kind of cuisine do you have at the restaurants? And you said you and your wife are foodies. Did this come from your worldly travels and going all over the world tasting different foods? And
yeah, I think so. I mean, I grew up in Portrush, obviously. I mean, there's a great restaurant complex in the town. It's just a small town, but people come from all over Ireland and Northern Ireland to come to these restaurants. And you know, it was a family friends of ours, and I nearly invested in 2008 when when finances were a little tighter, and I always kind of had this great vision of being part of something like that, walking into your own place, and kind of feeling part of something, a successful chain like that. And I remember I slept on it for a few weeks too long, and the guy said, you know what, we actually had a pretty good first quarter and we're fine financially, so don't worry about it. And I was always a bit like, wow, okay, I missed that opportunity. So I got approached by a couple of friends of mine in Orlando about a space just outside of the gates of Nona, and these guys were great restaurateurs, and they said they wanted to kind of open a concept, and would I be interested in getting involved? And I was like, yeah, that's
not going to pass on this
exactly
one.
I'm not going to pass this time. So thankfully these guys are really good at what they do, and I certainly didn't really have a whole lot to do with the success apart from putting some finances in the pot at the beginning. But it is fun to walk into your own place, and it's American cuisine. It's kind of like a little bar tavern, but it's like sneaky really good food, and great steaks and that kind of stuff. And we have one in Orlando and one up in Ponte Vedra there by TPC Sawgrass, and both are doing great. Like I say, thanks to hooking up with some good business partners. I think I always enjoy getting involved in businesses and the entrepreneur side of the game of golf. I've been very fortunate to do okay financially, and always trying to invest and kind of put things together for your future, obviously. And the more I've done that, the more I've realized it's a people world. You can have the greatest concept in the world, but if you don't have the people driving that concept, you're going to fail. So in the restaurant space, I was very lucky to align myself with guys that knew what they were doing, and we've been very fortunate.
Graeme, at Nona Blue, you serve a dish called G mac and cheese.
Mm-hmm.
What makes it? What puts the G in the mac and cheese?
Yeah, what puts the G? Well, it's a little lobster and bacon. So I think we have some lobster bacon in there. We kind of bake it in the oven. I'm not a big mac and cheese guy, so it wasn't like, oh, it has to be the G mac and cheese. It was, it was my guys came up with that one. But it's
pretty clever.
It's a pretty good mac and cheese. It's a really good mac and cheese. So, yeah. So we have a couple of little Irish sort of shout outs on the menu. I mean, obviously the G mac and cheese is not very Irish, but it's got my name there. It's
very Irish, Graeme.
We have a couple of desserts on there. We have one called the banoffee pie, which is like a banana toffee little dessert that, going back to the restaurants we were talking about earlier in Portrush, their desserts were like amazing, and so we have a couple of desserts on the menu. And then we have my mom's Irish coffee, so it's called Marion's Irish Coffee. So it's kind of the old Irish recipe, So I feel like when I get Irish coffees in the States, they kind of normally butcher it up with some sweet creams and all that kind of stuff. So we have a proper Irish coffee in Nona Blue, which is just like, just fresh cream and some good Irish whiskey in there and some good coffee, and it's always a good night finisher, that one, or maybe a night starter, whatever you want to call it.
You also have your own whiskey range, Grey Coast Irish Whiskey. It's described as a new Irish whiskey with an American finish.
Yeah.
Much like yourself.
Yeah, that's exactly. And funnily enough, the whiskey sort of it follows my story. It's kind of like it's like the Irish American dream, if you like. So it's an Irish whiskey that is finished in American oak, kind of got those bourbon edges to it, and for whatever reason, my brand's always been had an alcohol edge to it. So I've always kind of had little endeavors into the alcohol space. Had a partnership with a Scotch whiskey at one point. We made our own beer for a little while. It was called Gulf Beer Brewing, which kind of went a little sideways. And then so I've had a few kind of little sort of forays into the alcohol space, and then I got approached by some great guys that knew what they were doing about 18 months ago, and they said, let's make an Irish whiskey together. I said, well, if we're going to do it, I really want to do it right. I want to be an owner. I want to build this brand the right way. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We're about 15 months old. I think we're in 28 states in America so far, and it's a really good whiskey. It's a really good, super approachable, and yeah, pretty tasty.
Grey Coast.
Grey Coast, named after the coast of Northern Ireland where I grew up. We were talking about it, kind of thinking about names for this whiskey, and I was sort of describing the coast to the guys, and I was like, well, the skies are not normally very blue. It's kind of dark, and like, so we ended up in Grey Coast. So it's a little too close to Grey Goose. People kind confuse it with Grey Goose, but no, it's Grey Coast, and it's Irish whiskey finished in America.
So you're a very busy entrepreneur off the course.
Yeah, I like it. Like I say, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to do this forever. I enjoy kind of stuff to keep me amused when I'm at home, and brands like Grey Coast to get to get involved in, and use the kind of power of golf to meet people and build the brand and kind of go from there.
So the podium finish you guys had in Bangkok, it seems like the whole team, the Cliques team, is into horse racing. So you guys invested into a horse, is that right?
Yeah, we did. We bought a horse together back in the UK, and it was an Irish horse that had ran on the flats, and he was already. So when you buy a horse that's already ran, he already has his name. So his name ended up being Four of a Kind.
Okay.
So we kind of thought that was just meant to be, to have a live team, 4 players from the Cliques GC to own the horse. So yeah, he's a lot of fun. So we took him to the UK. He's with a trainer that we know well over there, and we turned him into a jumper. So now he runs about 2.5 miles over the jumps, okay. And he ran about 4 or 5 times this season. He's still pretty young. He just turned 4 of a kind. We found out that his birthday is the same birthday as my wife's as well, so she liked that, so that was lucky. And so he actually won one of his races, and he's having the summer off right now, but we're hoping he's going to be back on track this fall. So just something fun. We've got the players and the caddies are all invested in it, and it was just something fun. And
so how did that all come about? Did any of you guys have a history in horse racing, or?
I think just a history in gambling generally, like I think when you grow up in the UK and Ireland, I think horse racing is just one of those things that's kind of in the blood a little bit. And my caddy Kenny's from Manchester in England, and it was actually a mutual friend of ours, this horse trainer, and we'd always kind of kind of talked about maybe buying a horse at one point, and the timing was just right. This guy was setting up his own stables, and he said, well, I keep an eye out for you, and we found this horse. So then, it was right around the time when Liv was really getting going, and we had this team. So we, over dinner one night, we said, hey, do we all want to chip in and buy this horse and have a little fun with it? So
that's cool.
Four of a Kind was born.
Hopefully more victories to come.
Yes, hope so.
All right, let's just jump right into the foursome and see who Graeme has to play with him. Okay,
Graeme, so joining you in your Fourball, your second guest is someone who means a lot to you.
Yeah, my dad obviously grew up playing golf with my dad. He introduced me to the game. I think I'd always like him along for the ride. We talked about Augusta earlier. I had a chance to take my dad to Augusta 7 or 8 years ago, and he played amen corner level par, and that was just, he was kind of like, all right, beam me up, I'm done. That's it. He couldn't wipe the grin off his face for about a month afterwards. But he's obviously been a special person in my life, and he was with me when I won at Pebble on Father's Day in 2010, and he's getting a little older. He's not playing as much golf anymore, so I'm always trying to beat him back into shape and get him back out on the golf course with me. And I'd always like him in my Fourball, I think.
Have you managed to give him a better Father's Day gift since winning?
No, I would say
it's hard to top that.
I remember we were walking to the first tee on Sunday, and it was a shuttle ride from the range at Pebble down to the first tee, and we get out and we're walking down the steps, and he's like, I was like, happy Father's Day, didn't get you anything, sorry pal, but we'll get something later. And he's like, well, why don't you just get me that silver trophy today? And I was he's crying and I'm crying, and I'm like, I've got to go tee it up here, and no
added pressure
so no pressure, Dad. I'm like, I'm not quite sure I can do that for you, mate, but I'll do my best, So that was cool. It's always going to be an amazing memory. He came to the U.S. Open for many years with me, and it was pretty cool. I think my mom was at the beach with her sister, and she didn't even realize it was a major championship. She's like, he seems to have won something pretty big here. I'm not really sure what it is.
She was still mad at you for skipping out of school, I think.
Yeah, exactly. She was still mad. But it's obviously a special relationship there. He brought me to the game, and it was cool to share those types of moments with him.
How did it change your life after winning that major?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a life-changing experience for sure. I mean, people knew your name, people recognized you a little bit more. Your own expectation levels go through the roof, and you're playing in Ryder Cups, and you're in all the majors, and you're exempt on all the tours, and it was definitely a very special moment. All of a sudden, you got some sponsors, and the life got a little busier. Like I say, you got sponsors that want to pay you a little bit more, but they keep you a lot busier. But like I say, I think the expectation levels within yourself were the difficult part to battle, because you've tasted the kind of the absolute best of the best, and the biggest events in the world, and you want more of it. So it definitely took me a little bit of time to sort of like find my equilibrium again. But 2012, I finished one behind Webb Simpson at Olympic Club in the U.S. Open, and played well in all the majors that year. So it was definitely a big moment for me, and thankfully managed to kick on and play pretty well for 3 or 4 years after that as well.
So how was your dad's game? Getting into golf at an earlier age. I mean, what was the height of his game? Like, where did he get his handicap to?
Yeah, I think he got to about a 5. And that was a pretty solid 5, or around the Portrush golf courses and stuff. So, but he loved the game. He ran the junior program when I was a kid at the golf club, and my uncle was, his brother-in-law was my coach, and he ran the coaching side of the junior kids. So he was always like heavily invested in the game, and heavily invested in all the kids and kind of their development when they were kind of young, and so he was always super invested in my game, and he loved the sport himself. But his game is definitely on the wane right now, and new knee and a new hip and a new shoulder, and we're trying to kind of get him healthy again and get him out there, because that's genuinely something that he loves to do. We played the Dunhill Links once together. I think he was like so nervous he could barely stand up, and then we won Pebble in 10, and I didn't go back to Pebble again until I think it was a 2014 AT&T, and my dad and I played together in the Pebble Beach Pro-Am as well. So
you've taken him along for some incredible rides.
Yeah, we've had some good walks. I remember we flew into San Francisco for that event. We played San Francisco Golf Club. We played Monterey Peninsula the next day, and then we played Cypress Point the next day. And I think by the time we got to Thursday in the first round of the tournament, he was worn out. So I think I over golfed him. But I mean, some of those walks, to me,
they're crazy.
Cypress Point. I mean, what a walk to be able to share, in a game that he brought me to. Pretty cool.
I mean, it's got to be pretty fulfilling for him. I mean, just like you mentioning your son saying, "Hey, let's go to the range," and how fulfilling that might be for you with everything you put into the sport, but for your dad to introduce you to the sport and then play Augusta National, play Amen Corner, go play Dunhill Links. I mean, it's just like,
it's pretty cool, and like I say, if my son wants to play the game at any level, I mean, I think just to be able to share those times with him, hopefully in the future, walking around those incredible golf courses with him, that's definitely something I look forward to.
Okay, next player in your Fourball is someone you consider a master of their craft.
Yeah, I picked Ben Hogan here. I was a big fan of Hogan. I kind of read all the books, and I kind of did a lot of research on him, and he just seemed like such an interesting player to me. Someone who just was completely enthralled with the mechanics of the sport, and just a real competitor. Obviously you look at the greatest that have ever played the game, Tiger and Jack and guys like that. I always feel like you look at a guy like Ben Hogan, he really laid the foundations down for the modern game, and to me he would have been a pretty interesting guy to play 18 holes with, and probably even more interesting, go to the bar, have a couple of scotches with him, and tell some stories. I feel like he would have been a super interesting guy, and to me just one of those guys that I wish I'd played the game 20 years earlier, maybe have gotten to know him, gotten to play with him a little bit, but just seems like such a unique character.
Best swing of all time, you think it's Ben's?
I think it's right up there, for sure. I think, he certainly, was the first guy who scratched the surface of the modern swing, really understood it. Pete Cowan, who's been my coach for 15 years. I mean, to me, Pete swings it just like Hogan, and Pete really teaches a lot of the Hogan principles still to this day. And I feel like, the way he gets his right elbow kind of tucked underneath him and stuff, and just the mechanics and, the lower body connection and that kind of stuff. It's, Pete definitely reminds me a lot of Hogan's move, and to me, just an incredible athlete, and like I say, it would have been pretty. I think he'd have been a fun guy to hang out with.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe if
I'm
we
sure
got
he's
hang
got
out.
some incredible stories to share for sure.
If he could give you a lesson in any part of your game, what would you ask Ben Hogan to teach you?
Well, I don't think Ben liked putting. I think Pete Cowan is of the same school of thought. He always says that putting should only be half a shot, because the athletic part of golf is moving the ball from A to B, right? And you get up there trying to knock in a 5-footer and you miss it, and you're like, So I'd probably stay away from putting with Hogan. So I think it would definitely just be iron play. I think just pure ball striking. Kind of following the kind of genesis of his golf game. He grew up in the caddy yard, would have the long drive competition, so he kind of learned how to hit this low hard hook growing up in Texas. It's a little similar to kind of how I grew up learning the game, playing in the wind and playing links golf. Anything moving from right to left is going to do better in the wind. So Hogan always kind of fought the hook a little bit and really created a move to kind of fight that move. And so I'd definitely get him to show me how to take the left side out of the golf course in my game. And it'd be pretty interesting to kind of pick his brain on that.
I think he'd have a few things to say.
I think he'd know what's up, definitely.
Okay, Graeme, finishing off your Fourball, the final member is a celebrity guest.
Yeah, so for my celebrity, I picked Denzel Washington. Again, I just love interesting people. I just think that, obviously I love his movies. Just being in some incredible movies. He just seems, I've seen a lot of his, I've listened to a lot of kind of podcasts with him and just stuff that he said, and he just seems like such an interesting guy, inspirational, just a really deep character, kind of to me. I'm not sure if he's a golfer. Maybe you guys can find that out for me, see if we can set up a little game. But I'm not sure he plays any golf at all. But to me, he'd just be a super interesting. Again, it's like Hogan. It's like my dad. The 18 holes would be fun, but it's hopefully we get to go to the bar and have a few drinks and tell some stories afterwards. And to me, that's kind of like part of the golf experience is enjoying the golf, but like enjoying the après golf and having some fun and really getting to know people a little bit more. So I just thought he'd be a super interesting guy. Like I say, just love the character, love the characters he's portrayed in movies, and he's pretty cool.
He's got a relaxing voice. I feel like he could be a good caddy, Denzel Washington.
Yeah, I think he would definitely be.
Not that you can replace Ken now after 17 years
Kenny's
together.
17 years down the line, so we've already said him and I are going to retire each other together. So, but yeah, be interesting. I don't even know if he plays golf at all, but I'd say he's got an amazing voice, amazing presence, and I'd say he'd be an amazing storyteller.
What would you say your favorite Denzel Washington movie is?
I love the Equalizer movies. I think Training Day. It's probably Man on Fire. Man on Fire would be my fave. That's just a great movie. He's just a badass, and he'd be a cool dude. I mean, there were several actors that I really liked: Russell Crowe, Liam Neeson, kind of guys like that. Cillian Murphy, maybe. But Denzel was kind of the one I chose. But like I say, I need to find out if he plays.
I think Tiger Woods said that he would want Denzel Washington to play him in a movie about himself.
That would be cool. I'd watch that movie. That would be awesome.
Who would you pick? You've just said Russell Crowe, and I see it.
I can see that too.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. I'm not sure they're ever going to make that movie, but yeah. I mean, Russell Crowe's one of my favorite actors as well, and he carries off the facial hair pretty well, and he'd maybe have to put on a bit of weight for it, but like we're talking Gladiator, Russell Crowe here, right?
Yeah,
of
obviously.
course. Maximus Aurelius.
Indeed. Denzel would be a good fit. I don't know. I can't say that I've ever seen or heard anything around golf, but just good. For me with golf, it's turned into more of being with people who I enjoy or just want to be around.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm trying to still convince my wife to this point that it's not just about playing golf. You got to go to the 19th hole and grab a drink with the crew.
I think we're all trying to convince
our
wives of that.
Yeah.
That's the eternal fight.
Right? It's like, hey, you were just out there for 4.5, 5 hours. Like, why do you need to grab a drink and some food now? It's like, well,
funny.
you got it, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Just out of respect.
Respect to the game.
To the guys, right? Too. You owe it to them, right? So, Graeme, you got this group here with Denzel, Ben Hogan, and your father. You mentioned Augusta as your favorite course. where would you want to play this Fourball?
Yeah, I mean, I think Augusta would be up there for sure. You know, we got a decent wine cellar to kind of hit afterwards as well. Yeah, I think Augusta or maybe St Andrews or Portrush.
Okay.
One of those three.
Yeah.
I would not be picky. I would accept any of those three. Those would be my 3 golf courses. Sounds like a good day out. So
Yeah.
anyone watching that knows Denzel, I mean, obviously Ben's gone, but tell Denzel, give me a call.
All right. We'll get to work on that for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Graeme, for joining us.
There you go.
on
Thanks,
Fourball.
Bella. Thanks.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you turn that corner and get on the podium.
Yeah,
hoist that trophy.
I'm turning. It's coming around.
Yeah,
Go
looking forward to
Cleats.
it. Yeah.
Go Clicks.
Graeme, thanks for your time, man.
You
Appreciate
got
it.
it. Thanks so much, guys.